My name is Alex Hunnell. I am the single barrel and the blend program manager here at Black Button Distilling. Black Button, if you don't know, we started in 2012 right here in Rochester, New York. The owner and founder is Jason Barrett. He is born and raised in Rochester. Kind of how he got into the distilling world was he was down in DC. He thought about getting maybe into politics. He was also doing some accounting, and he in college had done some home brewing and started to see, as he was looking at the back ends of different companies, doing his accounting work, that there was a great opportunity in the brewing, the distilling, and the winery business. And something that maybe that Rochester didn't have so much was in the distilling side of things. So there is kind of a history back where his grandfather used to make Manhattans all the time, so he did have a love for bourbon and decided he wanted to bring a distillery back to Rochester, his hometown. So he did the very logical thing. He sold everything he owned. He sold his house. And he went off to Washington State, to Spokane. He went off to Michigan and learned at Michigan State, Cornell, all over the country to get as much distilling knowledge and training as he could before he came back to Rochester and started Black Button Distilling in 2012. The quick history on the name, Jason is actually colorblind. So the joke in his family, who has owned a button company since the 1920s, is that if he ever took over the company, that he would only be able to make black buttons. Jason likes to say he does do black buttons, he just makes them of the liquid variety today. So number one focus for us as a company at Black Button was to make bourbon. Jason wanted to bring a bourbon to Rochester, New York. And at the time we opened, we were not only the first distillery to produce since Prohibition, but of course we were the first bourbon to be produced since Prohibition. We started from making our own mash. We are on a license here in New York State called a New York State Farm Distilling License. It's a great opportunity for different producers here in New York State where breweries, wineries, and distilleries can all operate as long as they're using at least 75% grain that is grown here in New York State. Black Button, we're using 100% grain from New York, which we find is absolutely vital to creating our product. There is a terroir that we can talk about. It's more referred to in wine, but I am of the belief that there is terroir in the production of distilled spirits as well. And the grain that we have here, because we're not using commodity grain, has such a high quality that we can put into our product. So we can match high quality production, high quality ingredient, high quality barrels, and high quality efforts by a New York State based team creating one of the best bourbons here in New York State. Beyond that, we also make a bourbon cream, which we call our bespoke bourbon cream. That's our most popular item. It's the one that we're most known for. It is using a New York State ultra pasteurized cream as well as our bourbon. It's great around the holidays. You can make it in with a root beer float during the summer. And then on top of that, our citrus forward gin is the other item we are best known for. We were named by Food and Beverage Magazine, the gin of the summer. And that citrus forward gin is going to be great in the bee's knees, a great kick in your gin and tonic, and it's a lot lighter on the juniper, so it's much more of an entry-level gin if you're not the biggest juniper fan out there. So we're based right here in Rochester, New York by the public market. We'd be excited to have you come out and see our location here, and in just about 9 months, we're going to be moving over to a new location on University Ave. That's going to take our production from about 5,000 square feet up to 28,000 square feet. So our current production space will be the size of the entire new tasting room. We're excited for that opportunity to expand our production, to bring more of our great spirits to New York State, and to have you come join us here at Black Button Distilling. So right now we're sitting in the distillery, and actually what we're looking at on the equipment is a bourbon run. Our ability to do each day is about 4 barrels in a single bit of mash run. So we're going to be looking at starting out our run. Once we get into our main ethanol and our heart splay, we're going to go up what we call the witch's hat here, which is this copper piece. It's going to come straight across the system and come down to the swan's neck, which is where you're going to have the ethanol actually coming out. That's going to be the pure bourbon that we want to be putting into the barrels. For a portion of the run, around 3 to 4 hours, we're going to come across that just like we're looking at. Once we start to get what we would start to call kind of a tails character, we're going to go out of the straight across run. We're going to move into our columns here. What the pot does is gives us a lot of heavy grain character, a lot of that corn, a little bit rougher bourbon, which is great because we want to have a lot of that character that's going to age in the barrel. From there, we're going to come over to the column here, which is a pretty unique process to what we do at Black Button, and that's going to allow us to do a much more refined and a clean kind of character whiskey. A lot less grain character, a little bit less flavor, but that refined character plus the really heavy character that's coming off the pot is going to give us a much more mature bourbon at a younger age. So that's why we see between 3 to 4 years in our 30-gallon barrels that are aging, a incredibly high quality bourbon that's getting put into the barrel and that's coming out and going into the bottle. We're looking at now in the process, these are the fermentation tanks right back here. So when we're doing a bourbon run, we're going to ferment for about 7 days. Part of that is that's all that our yeast needs time-wise to produce the alcohol necessary that we're looking for. We are using a champagne-based yeast that's giving us all the action that we need in the process. But other part of that is actually allows our distillers to not have to do weekend distilling right now. So by doing a 7-day process, we can work basically Monday through Thursday, running the still. Friday can be a big cleaning day, and then Saturday and Sunday, our team can actually be with their families and not have to come in on the weekend. Last time we actually had our team working hard on the weekends was during hand sanitizer production during the pandemic. So obviously one of the important parts of the process of making bourbon is the barrel aging. So we do have to use white oak barrels. They have to be new and charred on the inside. I wanted to show these particularly because these barrels are made by Adirondack Cooperage in Remsen, New York. So that is a New York State cooperage, in my opinion, making some of the best quality barrels in the United States right now. They not only will do all the sanding, get everything prepared, where most people might, and you'll even see with some other barrels here, you can actually see some of the stave breaks. They're going to sand these down after the fact once they've actually put the hoops on, because they're trying to make things in the quality of almost furniture. So I joke, you could probably drop this barrel in the Sahara and this thing would still hold liquid, even after we've used it for 3 to 5 years. So once we're done with these, we'll take these to New York State breweries, New York State wineries, some other distilleries, and they'll actually put some of their own product in there, and we can do some pretty cool collaborations with other New York State makers, and that also kind of accentuates our farm license and the importance of utilizing the farm license here in New York State.